Hey everyone, Steve here from Big Head Tech, and today is the day of the performance review of the Asus TUF A15 featuring the Ryzen 7 4800H, which is their third generation 7nm processor, paired with a GTX 1660 Ti. This is the greatest and most powerful laptop that checks essentially every box that I'm most likely going to be returning in buying something else. But I'm not going to tell you now. You're going to have to watch this review and find out why. First, we kind of did an overview and design. Honestly, for $1,100, you get 8 cores and 16 threads. You get amazing single thread and multi-core performance, 16 gigs of high-speed RAM, a 1TB NVMe SSD, and a graphics card that costs $250 to $300 in a desktop. It's a fantastic deal. And in fact, building a similar laptop or desktop, including a 144Hz monitor, which this display isn't really that good in all things considered, and keyboard, mouse, speakers, I guarantee you're going to spend more money. So let's take a look at the performance test system. So you guys know my main system, so you guys can see it here. The only difference from the main system and the second system we're testing, so with the 3400G with the Vega 11 graphics, that's the second gen. And then we have this laptop, so that's the 4800H, 16 gigabytes of memory, 3200 megahertz. It is CL22. It is Vega 8 third gen, has a 180 watt power brick, and a 1TB NVMe SSD. Do note, these tests are not all apples to apples, but I don't think it's all that important because you're comparing two completely different systems. Now, back in the day, we used to have something called desktop replacements. They were heavy. They were 10 pounds plus. They had desktop parts. They ran really hot. And they weren't really laptops. This is about 5.5 pounds. It is portable, although the battery life is abysmal. That being said, you may have seen in my previous review, 45 watt hour battery on a 180 watt theoretical maximum. You can just imagine that's not a good combination. Now, taking a look, this is kind of standardized for the most part. The lower end systems did not have a multiple screen, so I didn't do standard testing there, but my main system did. Do keep that in mind. So let's take a look at the CPU performance first. So we have an 8-core 16-thread processor. Surprisingly, it slots right in the middle of the desktop 8-core 16-thread processor and the 6-core 12-thread desktop processor, scoring 4,211 points in Cinebench R20, Cinebench R15 1848, single core 487 and 189. So it does fall behind a little bit in single threaded compared to the desktop variants, but it does actually outperform a $200 desktop CPU, well, 170 to 200. So very impressive. And case in point, I don't have the test results here, but my 2700X on, and I think it was Cinebench R15, scored in the 1600s. Single core was in a 164 area, so it definitely is outperforming last generation in that regard. Going to BMW Blender render here, so same situation. It slots right in the middle of the desktop 6-core and 8-core processor respectively, rendering the scene in 4.37 minutes. That's not 4 minutes 37 seconds, actually. It is 4.37 minutes, and that's very impressive for a desktop chip that consumes up to 54 watts. Synthetics, let's take a look at superposition and 3D Mark Time Spy. Now we're comparing GPU, and you'll notice this particular GPU actually does fall behind on the laptop a little bit, anywhere from 3 to 10% across the board, but it does still beat the 1660 in both superposition and 3D Mark Time Spy. Games, that's usually where everybody's most interested in. It is not as powerful as the 1660 Ti Superclock. Can't put as much power through it. It doesn't clock as high. The memory, I think, is a little bit slower as well. That being said, it still wipes the floor with the 1660. It just can't quite touch the 1660 Ti. We're looking at 112 versus 105 FPS in Forza, 91 versus 86 in F1, Hitman 85 versus 77, Division was actually both 81, and then Ghost Recon Wildlands 77.5 to 71.5. So Still good. It take a little bit of a hit, but still good. Core clock, it doesn't boost as fast. 1875 megahertz versus 1945, so that definitely, 1875, 1945 respectively. Power and temp, this is very important to note. The GPU caps out at 80 watts of power, and it capped out about 52 degrees over ambient. The CPU, however, on the other side, would hit thermal throttle when the GPU is in full speed. So it would hit about 102 to 105 in some gaming applications, which would cause some thermal throttling. Now, let's talk why I think this, not the laptop, but the technology is absolutely amazing. Vega 8, Ryzen 7 nanometer, can deliver in a laptop what I need. So the problem is this laptop runs extremely hot, very hot indeed. Not so much the GPU, but the CPU definitely has some issues. And that's kind of where the problem is that because the 3 heat pipes cover both the CPU and GPU, what you end up running into is as soon as the GPU kicks up, it ends up overwhelming the heat pipes and the CPU can't be properly cooled. Now when we switch to AMD dedicated graphics, we don't have this issue. It still gets warm. In some cases it might hit close to 90, but it doesn't actually thermal throttle. So how much advances has Vega made? So this is a Vega 8 chip, Vega 8, versus a Vega 11 from the previous gen. Laptop, current gen, desktop, previous gen. Superposition, almost double the performance. This is low settings, 1080p, motion blur off. Now, low across the board isn't that impressive, so that's why I wanted to keep going with this. Let's take a look at games, and let's particularly take a look at games that I'm interested in. One of them being World of Warcraft. 1080p, level 5 settings, running a flight path average 65 FPS versus 31. Now, a lot of that is CPU based. Do keep that in mind. The higher single-threaded performance and the CPU boosting to 4.2 on 2 cores all the time helps a lot. But the 3200 megahertz memory definitely helps out substantially as well. We're running 3000 megahertz on the 3400G because that's about the fastest we can get it dialed in at. Huge difference there. Forza Horizon 4 medium settings, just a tick under 40 FPS average. Division 2, just a tick under 40 FPS. So we're seeing upwards of 20 or 33% performance games. Ghost Recon Wildlands almost double. Hitman 2 another 30% more. And this is a laptop chip versus a desktop chip. So that is really where it's impressive. So why am I returning this? Again, it's not for me. It runs really hot. It's really hot on my legs. It gets really loud to try to keep it cool. I end up turning off the 1660 Ti and I go on my way. I edit without too much difficulty. I play World of Warcraft, throwing games like Rocket League and CSGO and Minecraft and all of your entry to mid-level games. This Vega 8 can do perfectly fine. Medium settings, good frame rate, 1080p. So what am I going to do in the meantime? Well, I'm going to wait. I want a Ryzen 7 4800U. I want 32 gigabytes of memory or expandable of 32 and a probably 1 terabyte NVMe SSD. So I'm hoping that a 4800U will come out around $700, $750 for a base model. Upgrade the SSD, upgrade the memory, and be on my way. That is the perfect laptop for me. The problem is to get adequate cooling, even though this is a gaming grade laptop, you just need to make way too many changes. To the chassis, it has to be heavy, bulky, the battery life is god awful. So it is good in theory. I'm just not particularly impressed. Laptops have come a long way, but unfortunately, if you want high performance gaming, you have to get one that's a bit heavier, has more robust cooling, and then is it really a laptop? That's up in the air. So I'm really hoping for something that uses a little bit less power, puts out less heat, has better battery life, and should be able to accomplish what I need. That being said, if you really need something powerful, the thermal throttling probably will be fine. Yes, it does thermal throttle a little bit in some games, but overall it is pretty powerful for the specs. And if you can't have a desktop, this spec isn't too bad. You might just want to look at maybe another manufacturer design that has a little bit better thermals. So that's it. Hopefully this was useful for a lot of people, help you make the decisions you need. If you liked the video, hit the like button, dislike it, dislike the button, leave a comment, get subscribed, and as always, this is Steve from Big Head Tech, and I'll see y'all later on down the road.